Chapter 13, Battle Plans, Five Eyes and Synthetic Lies. Jay stepped through the circular entrance to Deck 0.0, the hub of Station 2, where gravity gradually diminished to near zero at the center. The Battle Dome project had progressed faster than anyone had expected. What had been empty space 2 weeks ago now contained two distinct combat arenas separated by a central observation platform. Mitchell and Connors waited for him, both wearing matching gray jumpsuits with Battle Dome emblazoned across the shoulders in bold red letters. "Administrator," Connors greeted him formally, though her eyes sparkled with excitement. "Welcome to the future of recreational combat." "Just Jay," he reminded her, still uncomfortable with the title. "This looks impressive." Mitchell gestured to the arena on their left. "We've implemented both designs, as you said. This is Arena Alpha, the reconfigurable maze." Jay drifted toward the railing, looking down into a complex labyrinth of translucent barriers that seemed to hover in midair. Workers in zero-G harnesses were installing what looked like control panels at various junctions. The entire maze can be reconfigured on the fly. Each barrier segment can move independently, creating new pathways or closing off existing ones during combat. The system can be programmed for timed changes or triggered by specific events. "Like someone camping in a good sniper position?" Jay asked. Connors nodded. "Exactly. We call it anti-hiding protocols. If a player remains stationary for more than 30 seconds, the nearby walls will reconfigure to expose them." Jay pointed to the glowing blue lines running along the edges of each barrier. "Power conduits?" "Position markers and safety lighting," Mitchell corrected. "The barriers themselves are a nanocomposite foam, rigid enough to stop projectiles but soft enough to prevent injuries on impact. We've installed acceleration dampeners throughout to prevent players from building up dangerous momentum. They're basically directed airstreams." Jay turned to look at the second arena. "And that's Beta." "The open field with movable obstacles," Connors confirmed, leading him to the opposite railing. "Based more directly on the battle room from Ender's Game. Larger open spaces with stars, floating obstacles of various sizes and shapes that provide cover. They move on predetermined paths, but with enough randomness to prevent predictability. The stars have varying densities. Some can be pushed by players to change their trajectory. Others are anchored to fixed paths." Jay watched a technician demonstrate by gently pushing a cube which spun slowly away on a new vector. "What about weapons? Have you decided between paintball or airsoft?" Connors pulled two different weapons from a nearby equipment rack. "We've actually developed a hybrid system. This is what we're calling the Mark I." She handed Jay what looked like a sleek rifle with transparent components showing colored spheres inside. "Gel capsules filled with UV-reactive dye," they explained. "They break on impact like paintballs, but are more aerodynamic and consistent than traditional rounds. The dye is invisible until activated by the helmet's HUD, so the arena stays clean." Mitchell held up the second weapon, and this is the Mark II. It fires biodegradable pellets similar to airsoft, but with an electronic core that registers hits more precisely. Better for competitive scoring, but less visually dramatic. "What about the suits?" Jay asked, noticing a row of what looked like sleek body armor hanging nearby. "This way." Mitchell led him to a small staging area where mannequins displayed the combat gear. The suit was a form-fitting exoskeleton covered in hexagonal panels. The helmet featured a wraparound visor with an integrated heads-up display. Each hexagonal panel contains impact sensors and temporary locking mechanisms. When hit, the panel, and the one around it, locks rigid for a determined time. 15 seconds is our current setting. "So, if you're hit in the arm," Jay began, "that arm is immobilized for 15 seconds. Hit in the leg, you can't use that leg. Hit in the torso, your entire upper body freezes. Headshot is an elimination. The whole suit locks up until the end of the game." Jay ran his hand over the suit's surface. "And these can distinguish between weapon impacts and collisions with walls or other players?" "Acceleration algorithms," Connor said. "The system can tell the difference between a controlled weapon projectile and environmental contact." Jay nodded, impressed. How long before it's operational? Arena Alpha will be ready for testing tomorrow. Beta needs another 3 days or so. Jay looked between the two engineers, noting their barely contained excitement. An idea formed. You two designed these systems, but have you tested them in actual combat? Connors and Mitchell exchanged glances. We've run diagnostics, Connors said carefully, but actual gameplay testing is scheduled for next week. Move it up, Jay decided. I want to see these arenas in action. You two, head-to-head, both arenas, tomorrow. Mitchell blinked. Us? Who better? Jay grinned. The designers should be the first to battle test their creation. Connors in Alpha, Mitchell in Beta. 1 match in each arena. Connors straightened, a competitive gleam in her eye. I accept the challenge. Mitchell nodded slowly. Engineering versus engineering. I like it. Excellent, Jay said. And have Denise record everything. I want full performance metrics. Speaking of Denise, Mitchell said, she's processed the results of the Ender's Game essay contest you authorized. Over 300 submissions from station personnel and residents, mostly residents. Jay had launched the contest 6 weeks ago, inviting station residents and personnel to submit essays on tactical innovations inspired by the novel. The prize? First access to the Battledome when it opened, to all entrants. Let's hear it, Jay said. Mitchell tapped her whist pad, and Denise's voice came through the speakers. Good afternoon, Administrator. I've analyzed all 327 essay submissions based on creativity, tactical innovation, and practical application criteria. Would you like the top 5 or just the winner? Give us the top 3, Jay decided. Third place, Dr. Eliza Wong, Hydroponics Division. Her essay proposed a modification to Ender's enemy's gate is down orientation principle, suggesting rotating reference frames based on relative position to objectives rather than fixed directions. Connors nodded appreciatively. That's actually brilliant for station defense scenarios. Second place, Carlos Mendez, resident from Cuba. He proposed a null team variant where some participants act as environmental hazards rather than combatants, creating unpredictable tactical challenges. Interesting, Jay mused. That could simulate civilian presence in security drills. First place, Joel Fontaine, Recreation Planning. His comprehensive analysis of Ender's Dragon Army formations and lack thereof, adapted for 3-dimensional combat, included software simulations demonstrating superior tactical flexibility compared to traditional military formations. I smiled. Of course Joel won. The Battledome was his idea in the first place. He's requested permission to form the first official Battledome team, calling themselves Dragon Army naturally. Approved, I said immediately. And I want a demonstration match scheduled as soon as both arenas are operational. Dragon Army versus... who should they face? Connors and Mitchell looked at each other again. Security team? Connors suggested. Too predictable. I want something unexpected. He thought for a moment. The engineering corps. Your people. Both of you. Engineers think differently than security personnel. More creative problem solving, less tactical rigidity. Engineers versus recreation specialists. Mitchell seemed skeptical. My people spend more time with equations than combat training. Exactly. That's what makes it interesting. Battle school wasn't about training soldiers who already knew how to fight. It was about finding innovative thinkers and teaching them to apply that thinking to combat. Understanding dawned on Connor's face. You're not just building a game. I'm building a training ground, Jay confirmed. For people who need to think in 3 dimensions, adapt to changing environments, and solve problems under pressure. Valuable skills whether you're defending a station or exploring a new world. Mitchell smiled slowly. Not just a game, a simulation. With very real applications. I agree. Now, I believe you two have a match to prepare for. I expect to be impressed tomorrow. The observation deck was packed the following day. Word had spread quickly about the engineer versus engineer showdown, and station personnel from multiple departments had gathered to watch. Jay sat in the central control booth with Joel Fontaine, who had lobbied for and been appointed official Battledome commander. Arena Alpha is ready, Joel reported, monitoring his screens. Connors and Mitchell have completed their equipment checks and are in position. Denise, are you recording? Jay asked.
Full spectrum data collection in progress, the ASI confirmed through the booth speakers. Biometrics, suit telemetry, spatial positioning, and video from multiple angles. Jay leaned forward. Set the freeze time to 5 minutes and begin match 1. The lights in Arena Alpha dimmed to a cool blue with a high UV component, making the arena look like 1960s blacklight party. The markings on the players' suits glowed under the light. Mitchell, neon yellow, Connors, neon red. Countdown numbers appeared on the main view screen. 3, 2, 1. A horn sounded, and the maze came alive with movement. Mitchell launched herself from her starting position, using the minimal gravity to glide between barriers while maintaining contact for directional control. Connors took a more methodical approach, moving from cover to cover, constantly checking her surroundings. Interesting contrast in styles, Joel observed. Mitchell's using momentum and speed, Connors prioritizing tactical positioning. The maze walls shifted suddenly, opening new pathways and closing others. Mitchell adapted quickly, changing direction mid-glide to avoid exposure. Connors used the reconfiguration to advance her position, moving deeper into enemy territory. The first exchange of fire came 3 minutes in. Mitchell spotted Connors through a gap in the barriers and fired a quick burst of gel capsules. Connors twisted, taking a hit to her left arm, but returning fire as she rotated. Mitchell dodged most of the shots, but took one to her right leg. "First blood to both," Jay commented as the hit indicators on their suits lit up, immobilizing Connors' arm and Mitchell's leg. The crowd murmured appreciatively as the two engineers adjusted their tactics to compensate for their temporary disabilities. Mitchell used her good leg to push off surfaces, maintaining mobility despite the handicap. Connors switched her weapon to her right hand, sacrificing accuracy for continued offensive capability. The match intensified as the maze reconfigured more frequently, forcing both competitors to constantly adapt. After 15 minutes of cat-and-mouse tactics, the decisive moment came when Connors anticipated a wall shift and positioned herself for an ambush. As Mitchell rounded a corner, Connors fired a perfect headshot. "Match point, Connors," Joel announced, as Mitchell's helmet displayed the elimination symbol. The crowd erupted in applause. Jay studied the replay data. Connors used the maze algorithms against Mitchell. She recognized the pattern and predicted the next configuration. Engineer thinking, Joel agreed, finding the system behind the apparent randomness. After a short break, the competitors moved to Arena Beta for the second match. The open field with its floating obstacles presented a completely different tactical challenge. "Begin match 2, Jay ordered. This time, Mitchell immediately demonstrated her advantage. Where Connors had been methodical in the maze, Mitchell thrived in the open environment, using the floating obstacles for both cover and momentum. She pushed off from star to star, building complex trajectories that made her almost impossible to track. She's treating it like orbital mechanics, Joel realized, each push calculated for maximum efficiency. Connors initially struggled, uncomfortable with the exposure of open space. She tried to create defensive positions by clustering near larger obstacles, but Mitchell's superior mobility allowed her to attack from unexpected angles. 8 minutes in, Connors adapted her strategy. Instead of trying to match Mitchell's mobility, she began using the moving obstacles themselves as weapons, timing her pushes to send stars on collision courses with Mitchell's position. "Now that's innovative," Jay said appreciatively. The match became a complex dance of physics and prediction. Mitchell maintained her mobility advantage, but Connors' environmental manipulation forced her to constantly change course. In the end, Mitchell's comfort in open space proved decisive. She maneuvered Connors into a crossfire position between two approaching obstacles and delivered the elimination headshot while Connors was distracted. "Match point, Mitchell," Joel announced. 1 victory each. The crowd cheered even louder for the tied result. Jay stood, genuinely impressed by both performances. "Denise, analysis," Jay requested. The ASI's voice came through clearly. Both arenas demonstrated distinct tactical advantages. Arena Alpha rewards methodical planning and pattern recognition, while Arena Beta favors physics-based mobility and environmental awareness. The different environments produced significantly different combat styles from the same competitors. Recommendations? Maintain both arena types, Denise suggested. They develop complementary skill sets that would be valuable in varied tactical situations. And additionally, I recommend varying the immobilization times based on hit location and implementing team-based scenarios to encourage collaborative problem-solving. Jay nodded, satisfied. Joel, implement those changes for the Dragon Army demonstration match. Yes, sir. Joel was already typing notes. When would you like to schedule it? 1 week from today, Jay decided, and I want representatives from all departments attending. This isn't just recreation, it's training for how we think and operate in space. As the engineers emerged from the arenas to congratulations from the crowd, Jay felt a sense of accomplishment unlike anything he'd experienced before. The Battle Dome wasn't just a game, it was becoming a symbol of how humanity would adapt to life among the stars, learning to think, move, and fight in 3 dimensions. More importantly, it was bringing his people together, creating community and purpose. For the first time since accepting the administrator position, Jay felt like he was building something truly meaningful. Mitchell approached, still breathing hard from exertion, but grinning widely. Your verdict, Administrator. I'm impressed, Jay said sincerely. Both of you. I think we've created something special here. Connors joined them, helmet under her arm. This could revolutionize station security training. The tactical applications are significant. And the recreational value is undeniable, Joel added, gesturing to the excited crowd. We already have 12 teams requesting formation approval. Jay looked around at the faces of his crew, energized, engaged, unified by this shared experience. This was leadership, he realized, not giving orders or making speeches, but creating environments where people could excel, innovate, and come together. Approve all 12 teams, he decided, and schedule regular tournaments. I want the Battle Dome to become part of station culture. And from now forward, teams don't need permission to form, but they do have to register with the Battle Dome Commander's office. As they left the observation deck, Jay found himself thinking about the wider implications. What had begun as a recreational facility was evolving into something far more significant, a training ground for the 3-dimensional thinking humanity would need as it expanded into space. And perhaps, when the time came, for whatever challenges awaited beyond the portals. For now, though, he was content to watch his people adapt and grow. The Battle Dome wasn't just teaching them new ways to compete, it was teaching them new ways to think, and in the world they were building, that might be the most valuable skill of all.
Dr. Jackson adjusted his collar as he entered Real Meat, the newest restaurant on Deck 1.1 of Station 1. The establishment's rustic decor, exposed wooden beams, leather booths, and dim lighting, contrasted sharply with the sleek minimalism that dominated most of the station's public spaces. The aroma of searing beef and a hint of wood smoke filled the air, a nostalgic reminder of Earth's carnivorous pleasures. Connie's voice came through his neural implant. All 5 guests have confirmed attendance. They're currently approaching from different entry points, as expected. Thank you, Connie, Dr. Jackson sub-vocalized. Keep monitoring their communications. I'm curious how they'll coordinate once they realize they're not dining alone. The maitre d' escorted him to a private dining room at the back of the restaurant, where a round table had been set for 6. Dr. Jackson chose a seat facing the door and waited, sipping water and studying the menu he already knew by heart. Robert Smythe arrived first, precisely on time. The British intelligence officer entered with the practiced nonchalance of a man accustomed to dangerous situations. His tailored gray suit and carefully disheveled salt-and-pepper hair gave him the appearance of a successful businessman rather than a spy. "Dr. Jackson," he said, extending his hand, "what a pleasant surprise. When your AI invited me to dinner, I assumed it would be a more private affair." "Mr. Smythe," Dr. Jackson replied, rising to shake his hand, "I find that good meals are best shared with interesting company. Please join me." The others arrived in quick succession. Amanda Dundee from Australian intelligence, a compact woman with an athlete's build and sharp eyes. Michael Delaney, the Canadian operative whose folksy demeanor belied his analytical mind. Sarah Williams, the New Zealander whose background in quantum computing had earned her a place in the Five Eyes network. And finally, Thomas Grant, the American CIA agent whose military bearing couldn't quite disguise his constant threat assessment. Dr. Jackson watched with amusement as each newcomer registered surprise at finding colleagues from partner agencies present. The carefully neutral expressions and subtle nods exchanged spoke volumes about their professional relationships. "What a coincidence," Smythe remarked dryly, as Grant took the final seat. "It seems we've all developed an appetite for authentic beef at the same time." "Hardly a coincidence," Dr. Jackson replied cheerfully. "I invited all of you. It seemed more efficient than having 5 separate conversations about the same topics." A young waitress approached their table. She wore a snug black dress that accentuated her figure, with a neckline that drew appreciative glances from several of the guests. Her name tag read Sophia. "Good evening," she said with a warm smile. "May I start you with something from the bar?" Dr. Jackson nodded. "Jack and Dr. Pepper for me, with 2 ice cubes." The others ordered their drinks: Scotch, neat, for Smythe, gin and tonic for Dundee, bourbon on the rocks for Grant, craft beer for Delaney, and New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc for Williams. "And are we ready to order, or would you like a few minutes?" Sophia asked, her perfume subtly wafting over the table. "I believe we're ready," Dr. Jackson said. "I'll start with the tomato bacon bisque, followed by the New York strip, medium rare, with sweet potato fries, and German chocolate cake for dessert." The others placed their orders, premium cuts of beef for most, with Smythe selecting the Japanese A5 Wagyu, and Williams opting for the herb-crusted lamb. As Sophia left to place their orders, Smythe leaned forward slightly. "Charming staff you've employed. Very authentic atmosphere." "We aim for authenticity in all things, though appearances can be deceiving." The drinks arrived promptly, and after a brief toast to enlightening conversation, Smythe took the lead. "I've been curious about your educational system here. No traditional schools, at least none that I could find." Dr. Jackson nodded. "Traditional classrooms are an industry-age relic, designed to produce factory workers. We've developed something more effective." "Video games, I hear," Grant interjected skeptically. "Immersive educational environments," Dr. Jackson corrected. "From age 4, our children learn through adaptive VR systems that adjust to their individual learning styles, interests, and progress rates. They master quantum physics through game mechanics before they're 12, learn languages by living in simulated foreign cultures, and develop problem-solving skills through collaborative challenges." "And social development?" Williams asked. "The systems include extensive social components. Children collaborate on projects, compete in teams, and participate in communal activities all on the VR deck. The difference is that they're not limited to interacting only with peers who happen to share a birth year and postal code. They can interact with anyone they like." Dundee nodded thoughtfully. "And the results?" "Our average 12-year-old could pass most university entrance exams," Dr. Jackson said, without boasting. "More importantly, they retain what they learn because they acquire knowledge through experience rather than memorization."
Their appetizers arrived, delivered by Sophia with a smile that lingered just long enough to seem personal to each recipient. Dr. Jackson noticed how the 5 agents subtly tracked her movements, their professional training unable to completely suppress basic human responses. "You seem very comfortable discussing your educational methods," Delaney observed. "I wonder if you'd be equally forthcoming about station security." Dr. Jackson savored a spoonful of his tomato bisque before answering. "What would you like to know?" The 5 exchanged glances, clearly surprised by his openness. "Defensive capabilities," Smythe suggested. "Given recent, tensions?" "Comprehensive," Dr. Jackson replied simply. "We've developed systems based on the simple principle that offense is easier than defense, so the best defense is superior offense." "Those mirrors on the undersides?" Grant pressed.
Multifunctional. They reflect sunlight for the daily flare, yes, but each panel is independently controllable. They can redirect incoming laser attacks back to their source with precision. We call it the mirror shield. And kinetic weapons? Connors asked, her tone professional. We maintain what you might call rods from God, tungsten projectiles in various sizes, from 1 kilogram to 10 metric tons, deployable via railgun. Properly aimed, they strike with the force of small tactical nuclear weapons, but without radiation. Clean, precise, and virtually unstoppable. Sophia returned to clear their appetizer plates. As she leaned over to take Dr. Jackson's bowl, Smythe's eyes lingered on her figure. "Your waitress seems to have quite an effect on my colleagues," Dundee observed after she left. Dr. Jackson answered, "It's the pheromones, of course. Designed to elicit attention and trust." "Pheromones," Williams repeated. Dr. Jackson called out, "Sophia, would you mind joining us for a moment?" The waitress returned promptly, "Yes, Dr. Jackson. Our guests are interested in your design. Would you mind demonstrating?" Without hesitation, Sophia reached behind her neck and unzipped her dress, letting it fall to the floor. Where human anatomy should have been, the 5 agents saw a perfectly sculpted but clearly synthetic body, anatomically suggestive but lacking certain biological details. "Thank you, Sophia," Dr. Jackson said calmly. "That will be all." The waitress retrieved her dress, zipped it back up, and returned to her duties as if nothing unusual had happened. "Synthetic," Smythe stated, recovering quickly. "Impressive craftsmanship. All our current service staff are synthetic. More efficient, more consistent, and they don't mind working in space. The pheromones are an added touch. They make people more comfortable around what might otherwise be unsettling technology." The main courses arrived, delivered by Sophia and another synthetic server, male this time. The conversation paused as they sampled their meals. "Magnificent," Smythe declared after tasting his wagyu. "Genuinely earth-raised beef." "From our Brazilian ranches," Dr. Jackson confirmed. "One of the advantages of having a private island." "You mentioned station defenses," Grant said, returning to the earlier topic. "What about electromagnetic capabilities?" "Substantial," Dr. Jackson admitted readily. "Radio frequency and ultrasonic systems capable of disabling everything from communications to neural activity. Useful for disabling electronics or creating discomfort in hostile boarding parties without causing permanent harm." "And your security personnel?" Dundee inquired. "A combination of human and robotic forces. The robots handle routine patrols and first response. Human operators manage strategic decisions and special situations." "All this technology," Delaney mused. "I assume it's protected against tampering." Dr. Jackson nodded. "Everything from molecular bonds that trigger self-destruction when unauthorized modification is attempted, to quantum encryption that can't be broken without changing the message. We are quite thorough." As the conversation continued, Dr. Jackson noticed something peculiar in the agent's reactions. When Connie provided him with information through his neural implant about each spy's background, they sometimes reacted subtly, a slight eye movement, a changed breathing pattern, as if they'd heard the same information. "Connie," he subvocalized, "are they receiving your communications to me?" "Scanning," she replied. After a moment, "Detected anomalous signal patterns consistent with wireless data receivers. Their neural implants appear to be intercepting our communications." Interesting, Dr. Jackson thought. They'd managed to hack the frequency and the encryption. "I've been curious," he said out loud, changing tactics. "Those laser platforms we detected in orbit, any thoughts on their origin?" The 5 agents exchanged glances again, a silent negotiation about how much to reveal.
North Korea, Smythe finally offered, though with Chinese components and Russian guidance systems. A collaborative effort disguised as a rogue operation. "How convenient," Dr. Jackson remarked. "And when they inevitably fail, no major power needs to claim responsibility." "Precisely," Smythe agreed. "Plausible deniability is the cornerstone of modern international relations."
The desserts arrived. Dr. Jackson's German chocolate cake alongside various other sweet offerings for his guests. I notice you're all using smart contact lenses. Advanced models, too, judging by the infrared scanning capabilities. Grant's hand twitched slightly, the only indication of surprise. Standard issue, Smythe replied smoothly, though I find they irritate after extended use. Dr. Jackson reached into his jacket and produced 5 small cases. Perhaps ease might be more comfortable. The latest from our labs, self-darkening smart glasses with enhanced thermal and spectral imaging. A small token of appreciation for your candor this evening. The agents accepted the gifts with professional caution, examining them before Smythe decided to try his pair. The others followed suit. Remarkable clarity, Williams commented, looking around the room. Try the thermal imaging mode, Dr. Jackson suggested. Toggle is on the right temple. They activated the feature, and Grant immediately stiffened. The staff. Run hotter than humans, Dr. Jackson confirmed. The central processing cores produce more heat than biological systems, an unavoidable engineering challenge. Fascinating, Smythe murmured, studying Sophia as she served another table. You know, Dr. Jackson continued conversationally, I've been tracking global corporate ownership patterns for decades. Quite revealing. 14 conglomerates control approximately 80% of international commerce. Those 14, in turn, are significantly influenced by just 3 investment groups. Corporate consolidation is hardly news, Dundee noted. True, but what's interesting is the consistency of decision-making across these supposedly competitive entities, almost as if they share a singular vision despite apparent conflicts of interest. Dr. Jackson paused. Makes one wonder who or what might be coordinating such alignment. The implication hung in the air as the agents glanced at the synthetic servers with their tellingly warm heads. Surely you're not suggesting, Delaney began. I'm merely presenting observations. I find it's best to let intelligent people draw their own conclusions. The bill arrived, and Dr. Jackson placed his thumb on the payment sensor before any of his guests could offer. My invitation, my treat. I've enjoyed our conversation immensely. As he stood to leave, Smythe spoke up. We'll be staying a bit longer, if you don't mind. The desserts are exceptional. Of course, Dr. Jackson nodded. Enjoy your evening. Just remember our one cardinal rule. Cause no harm. We take it quite seriously. Understood. And, Dr. Jackson, thank you for cleaning up all that space debris. Made our jobs considerably easier. A necessary step in station construction, Dr. Jackson said with a smile. Amazing how many problems solve themselves when viewed from the right perspective. A not-so-subtle hint to use the smart glasses on Earth. 7,300 kilometers away, Jay sat in his office on Station 2, reviewing reports from the Battle Dome's first week of operation. A priority communication from Denise interrupted his reading. Administrator, I've established the secure monitoring network at the Himalayan portal site as requested. All cameras are operational and transmitting data. Jay leaned forward. Show me. His wall screen activated, displaying multiple camera feeds from what appeared to be ordinary rocks, plants, and even a small Buddha statue positioned around a cave entrance high in the Himalayas. The cameras had been designed to blend perfectly with the natural and cultural environment. Data encryption, Jay asked. Triple-layered quantum protocol, Denise confirmed. The signal routes through 17 different satellite relays, with randomized pathway selection that changes every 80 seconds. Who has access? You alone, Administrator. The feeds are isolated from all other station systems, including Dr. Jackson's administrative privileges. As requested, this is your eyes only.
Jay nodded slowly, watching the peaceful mountain scene. No movement except for the occasional bird or swaying prayer flag. Nothing to indicate the power of what lay hidden in that cave.
Monitor continuously, he instructed. Alert me to any human approach or unusual activity. Of course, Administrator. May I ask why this particular portal site requires such extraordinary security measures? Jay considered the question carefully. Because, Denise, I'm not entirely convinced we're the only ones who know about it, and I want to know who else might be interested before they realize we're watching. Understood. Continuing surveillance. Jay turned back to his Battle Dome reports, but his thoughts remained on the portal site. Dr. Jackson had been forthcoming about many things, but Jay couldn't shake the feeling that the most important pieces of information remained hidden. Trust was becoming a luxury he couldn't afford, not with the future of 2 space stations and potentially humanity's expansion to other worlds at stake. The question wasn't whether Dr. Jackson was hiding something. The question was what and why.